Hello everybody, welcome to Chapter 4, Week 4, How to Create a Web Map and Share Online Data. So what's the big deal? Why do we need to learn about ArcGIS Online when we're already working in a GIS on our computer? Well, ArcGIS Online is a really important component to doing GIS, especially since we're using the Esri suite of products, and Esri has developed what's called ArcGIS Online to kind of enhance whatever you can do on your desktop. So the desktop software that we use actually has a lot of advantages that you can't quite capture on ArcGIS Online, but on the same token, ArcGIS Online offers a whole other way of accessing data and analyzing the data and presenting it that you just cannot do or achieve with desktop. So learning how to do both really gives you an edge with presenting your geospatial analysis, and also just as sort of, I guess, going out into the workforce and saying, look, I can work in both of these fields. So with desktop, obviously you get your software. You guys have learned a little bit about what you're capable of, doing spatial analysis, doing something called geoprocessing, which is using all of these fantastic tools we have to do different kinds of more specific analysis. We can build models, which means we can actually come up with original tools for doing analysis. We use Python as our programming language, which is one of the easiest programming languages out there. We can do 3D analysis. We can edit and manipulate geodatabases. We haven't really gone into geodatabases yet, but that's not something you can really do or that you do in ArcGIS Online, but it is actually very important for organizing and understanding all the different kinds of data you're bringing into an analysis. But you can also take that information and publish it to the web, which is what you have done or will do in your lab. On the other hand, with ArcGIS Online, you get access to a more intuitive user interface. Now, the user interface is very different from desktop, as you'll see, or maybe you already have worked in ArcGIS Online and you've seen that it can be a little frustrating because you know what it is you want to achieve and you know how you achieve it on desktop, but it doesn't do it quite the same way in ArcGIS Online, which doesn't mean it's not intuitive, it's just different. So you have to sort of kind of separate your brain when you think about these two things. But once you get the hang of it, it's actually quite useful and intuitive. It has a lot of the same features as ArcMap, but like I said, without the same interface. My only thing is I don't like how intangible it feels versus desktop. I feel like with desktop you can really easily like open the hood of the car, so to speak. You can open it up and you can see your attribute tables, you can see your data. It's much easier to kind of conceptualize what it is you're working with, whereas with ArcGIS Online, it's a little more embedded within the whole software system, and I don't think this is tangible, but that's just my preference. However, with ArcGIS Online, the amazing thing is that you have the capacity to do so much more instantaneous and polished outputs with your analysis. So, within a matter of minutes, you can find some data, you can map it, you can tweak the way it looks and publish it to a story map or a web app and have something really impressive to show somebody within a short amount of time. Whereas with desktop, it's just not going to look quite as nice, and it will take a bit longer to get to achieve a look you like. And the other big positive thing about ArcGIS Online, which makes it so it's such an important tool, is that it integrates seamlessly with social media, different kinds of VGI, which is voluntary geographic information, and other online data. So this means you can actually take stuff like I like to call big geospatial data and tackle it more easily, because stuff like that is just a little harder to get onto our computers, especially for us sort of at the beginning lay people. So you can actually use that stuff and map it and do something really cool with it. But you can also create your own data or collect your own data of that kind. So basically, I like to say these two forms work well together, and you can really take any project to the next level by integrating the two. And that's something we're kind of doing in the lab this week. Okay, so what exactly do we mean when we talk about ArcGIS Online or AGIL? Because it's not simply just a website that you're going to do this work. This is cloud-based GIS, so all the stuff that we do in ArcMap is happening in real time, but being processed through a remote server on the website, on ArcGIS Online. But it's all accessed via the internet, of course. This is considered software as service, and if you're in geographic information science and technology, you'll learn a little bit more about this. Basically, it means that software is something that you now, as opposed to 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you used to like get a Microsoft Office CD-ROM and download it put it onto your computer. Now you actually download the software from the cloud, from the internet, onto your computer, which is what is called software as service. So it's very much similar to that. The advantages of ArcGIS Online are that it is on demand, which is probably one of the most critical things that it does, because as opposed to desktop, you need your desktop with you. This you do not. You can access this anywhere, which means it just is a lot more democratic, egalitarian, a lot of different places and people can use it around the world. The advantage is that the interface and capabilities update and change quickly. This could also be considered a disadvantage because you're always having to learn slightly new things as you go along, but overall it means that it is actually keeping up with technology. And it works with JavaScript and other languages for developing and customizing applications. So if you're handy with computer programming languages, you can do a lot of really cool stuff with creating different kinds of web apps that operate through the GIS platform. So ArcGIS Online Basics, which this is something else I think is good to know. I made a slide for it because these are concepts that I always sort of struggled with a little bit, not really understanding what exactly they mean, and they don't really have an impact on what you do, but it's good to sort of have this parsed out in your mind. And you'll hear these terms bandied about: hosted service, feature service, and map service. And I wanted to just sort of explain a little bit about what this means. So when you see the term hosted service, it means that someone else is hosting the service that you're accessing. So basically, it is what you think it is. All the information is stored on the remote server, and someone else is hosting that information. So anything, and also the data that you create and the maps you create is being hosted and stored somewhere else. When we talk about feature service is our ability to access and also create and contribute to all the different data sets, maps, apps that all the users of the community create. So I put a little icon or image over there of somebody ordering at a restaurant, because basically what you do is you can go on and search, do keyword searches or author searches, and order any kind of information you want. Those are known as the features. It also operates under something called a map service, and a map service is how GIS actually enables you to create these apps and interactive maps by creating maps that are called tiled, which means that they're not actually active like GIS maps, but rather they're static maps. That's why I have a picture of cakes under glass, if that makes any sense. So you can see it, and you can see that it's a cake, and you know what it does. And you can maybe guess what it tastes like, but you can't touch it, you can't manipulate it. But this enables quicker downloading and accessing of the different kinds of maps you'll be creating and using in your different visualizations that you create. So one of the great things about ArcGIS Online is there are many different things we can do with it. These are some of the ways that we can display and analyze geospatial data. And by doing that, several of the ways we do that is by collecting data. So collecting data is really fun and interesting. It enables you to, through a few steps, go out and gather your own geospatial information, whether it's locating all the fire hydrants in your city and plotting them on a map and then writing down their characteristics. You can do anything, and you can quickly and easily do that with ArcGIS Online. You can manage your data. You can keep it organized and use it for different projects. You can share with others within your group, or you can share it publicly. You can collaborate with other people. You can create custom applications. You can create maps that do different things, are interactive in different ways. We'll get more into that as we go through, touch on ArcGIS Online further in the GIS coursework, but there's some really cool stuff you can do. And you can also download data from other users. That's similar to share with others. And one of the other really big things that ArcGIS Online is really well known for nowadays is for creating story maps. And we will be using story maps later on this semester as I ask you to work on a final project. So we'll get to that a little later on. So one last thing, this is just sort of a practical thing, but it's very good to know, which is that the base maps, of which there are many you can choose from, you can see in this example here, we have streets, imagery with metadata, topographic, imagery with labels, light gray canvas. These are the base maps are what you can put your actual GIS information on, and base maps are static. They're not something you can actually run analysis with. But the thing to remember about base maps, and all maps you'll see on the internet, is that they're projected in Web Mercator. And as you can see in this example here, and if you might recall, Mercator projection maintains the area at the equator and gets distorted as it moves out. So that says a lot about what you're mapping. So you just need to be aware of that as you're using these maps, that they're always going to have this Web Mercator projection, and that changes the way your map looks, and you just need to be aware of what that is. And so to give you some idea of what happens with aerial distortion when you're looking at Web Mercator, this is a really helpful slide here, I think. You can see on the left how when you're comparing Africa and Greenland, how they compare on Web Mercator, and over on the right is actually how the aerial projections are more accurately line up together. So Greenland is quite a bit smaller in real life than it is on the Mercator map. So it'll give you a little more appreciation for the kind of aerial distortion that occurs on Web Mercator. Okay, and last but not least, this slide is just for fun. I read this recently and I think it's really interesting to share. It just gives you some appreciation for population density and the size of the United States and global populations. So give it a read, think about it, and enjoy marveling over the fact that the whole entire world's population can fit into Texas. Wow. All right, everybody, thanks very much.